Well, folks, this should hardly be considered a surprise in any manifestation, but I am none too happy with the way the Oakland Raiders played in their 35-28 loss over the weekend. And in fact, I'm not really a big fan of how the Raiders are playing in general this season. I'm going to throw out something, and I want an honest answer. It seems like I'm just like kvetching and I'm asking rhetorical questions, but I want to know something. How is it that the Raiders, after going out in the offseason and spending millions of dollars on these defensive free agency acquisitions, your Sean Smiths, your Bruce Irvins, your Reggie Nelsons, all these dudes, how is it that not only have the Raiders not improved defensively with all of these new highly paid guys on the team, they've taken a substantially worse step back in terms of defensive play. In fact, not only are the Raiders terrible on defense, they are historically bad. They're the first team since like the 1960s that have given up 500 plus yards of offense in back-to-back games. I mean, this is the kind of thing where if you're who's the defensive coordinator? Is it Ken Norton? Yeah, it's Ken Norton, I believe, for the Raiders. I mean, how this guy still has a job is beyond me. You can't be giving up that many yards a game. You can't play just this god-awful NFL Fever 2003 style of defense. And I mean, that's really what the Raiders, first two games have been. They got lucky against the Saints and pulled out the two-point conversion victory. But you saw the shortcomings of that strategy against the Falcons because Matt Ryan was just bloop, bloop, ploop. I mean, it was like Madden 93 on the Genesis. There was just no defense whatsoever. You were basically scoring at will. Now, I know there is a positive to that as well as a negative. Positive, of course, the Raiders are great on offense. We're seeing that. We're seeing the run game established. We're seeing them scoring points down the middle. We're seeing Derek Carr, looking great. Amari Cooper getting those big catches. The receiving core is much improved. I mean, it's a great offense. And I mean, the offensive line, paid a lot of money for that too, but they're earning their keep. Derek Carr has yet to be sacked. So he's got all the time in the world to scramble, all the time in the world to find a receiver. I mean, they're holding up their end of the deal. But as long as the Raiders defense is playing as badly as they've been playing, and the dudes we know who should be playing great are not showing up. Where is Khalil Mack? What has he done the last two games? I mean, I know he's kind of a slow starter, but still, you got to make that presence felt. And when you look at the two best Raiders games of last year, they had that first game against San Diego, and they had the game against the New York Jets, where not only did the Raiders' offense look awesome the way it does now, they were also clicking defensively. They were shutting down the run. They were sacking quarterbacks. I mean, they were just putting pressure down. And we're not seeing that from this team. And that really, really concerns me just about the future prospects that we have going forward. Now, granted, it was a competitive game. I mean, the Raiders' offense is going to keep them in a lot of games this year where historically or even last season they wouldn't have been in it. But still, unless that defense improves and improves drastically, we're looking at a disappointing season. All right, so takeaways from the game. Not a whole lot of offense during the first half, but then the second half, which tends to be kind of a thing for the Raiders now, just points like you would not believe. Matt Ryan had 396 yards and 3 touchdowns against the against the defense of the Raiders, my bad. So not as bad as what Drew Brees did, but still really, really high. Conversely, Derek Carr, he had 3 touchdowns against the Falcons defense. My apologies. He went 34 for 45, 1 yard close to a 300-yard day. Rushing, I guess the Raiders did okay. I mean, they only got Tevin Coleman in there one time for rushing score for the Falcons. Devontae Freeman had about 93 yards, so I guess it's not the best run showing. But then again, I do like the approach that the Raiders are doing with their own run game because you got Latavius Murray, you got DeAndre Washington, you got Jalen Richard, and you got Jameis Alawe, and I mean everyone discounts him, and they're all pushing the rock, and the Raiders finally have a solid run game. They don't have that breakout star like Adrian Peterson, but then get into the Vikings after he got hurt. But they do have a very, very solid running back by committee, and I think that's going to kind of help them in some games that they probably wouldn't have won last season. They're probably going to win this season now because they have that component. As far as the bad for the Raiders, everything else. Julio Jones got 106 yards. Austin Hooper, who I believe is he the tight end, I believe he's the tight end, or Jacob Tamme. Jacob Tamme and Austin Hooper, one of those guys was the tight end. 75 yards, 84 yards, just way too many dudes getting long passes. And it's one of those things where you're watching against Matt Ryan, and Matt Ryan is not an elite quarterback any stretch of the imagination. Just how easy it was for him to burn the Raiders on the long pass, and that terrifies me. That's one of those things where I thought we had finally turned that corner. I mean, we saw that to get better. I mean, that's been our Achilles heel for the last 14 years. Defensively, we were supposed to correct that with Sean Smith and Reggie Nelson. And right now, the only guy who's playing worth a damn is David Emerson, the guy we already had. So, what do you do there? So, yeah, the Raiders definitely got to work on that. Defensively, let's look what we got now. Khalil Mack had 4 solo tackles, and had that, not 4 solo tackles, he had 4 tackles overall. Reggie Nelson's our tackle leader. Got that 1 interception. I mean, just a lot of really underperforming guys on defense, and that's just not going to bode well for this team at all. So here's what's coming up. We got the Tennessee Titans in Week 3, and Marcus Mariota. I mean, you can say that Drew Brees, I mean, he's used to putting up high numbers. Of course he's going to get like 400 yards. Matt Ryan, I don't think is explosive offensively as Drew Brees. So the fact that he got that close to 400 yards really concerns me. Marcus Mariota, I mean, if there's a drop-off in talent from Drew Brees to Matt Ryan, there's like a huge drop-off in talent from Matt Ryan to Marcus Mariota. So I'm kind of going in this game thinking if the Raiders let this guy get more than 300 yards against them, I'm going to punch a puppy. I'm just going to find a puppy and start punching him randomly out of rage because that should not be happening. Not with this defensive line, not with Khalil Mack, not with Bruce Irvin, not all these dudes we spent $1 bajillion on. That can't happen. Raiders offense, no problems there. They're great. O-line, terrific. Special teams, love them. But the defense, that is a problem and it has to get fixed. And if it doesn't start showing some signs of improvement by Week 3 against the Titans, playoffs? What playoffs? It's not happening. This is another 7-9 team, 6-10 team, and we're back to being overrated again, which I don't want. I mean, the Raiders are too talented. They can turn the corner. We just got to see them crank the ignition on the defense, and all of a sudden this team will go from being a really fun-to-watch explosive offense to being a real playoff caliber team. And I know, even in the no-fun league where there's no defense anymore, you got to have some semblance of a secondary. And like I said, that's going to be the question of the season. Offense, no questions. Special teams, no question. Offensive line, no questions. Derek Carr, no questions. Receiving unit. The running back committee, which has been a problem for a long time, no longer a problem. Now it's about getting the defense playing the way they need to play it and stopping the long ball. And if the Raiders can't do that, it's going to be a long season.